I want a pair of NS10's. What's good about NS10's?
Oh boy.
We don't have time for this.
NS10's do work. I spent a long time trying to get away from them. I would not recommend going down that rabbit hole.
Why is that?
Because they are limiting at a certain point, and a lot of the stuff that, of mine that people may be excited about, was done with NS10's. And there is a thing about them that really works. It definitely makes you work hard. They're very mid-rangey sounding speakers. And so it will compel you to, put a big smiley face on everything, add a lot of extra low end and add a lot of, extra high end and stuff. And, I think there was a time where that made sense and it really, really worked for a long time. But, the low end of modern records is very, very different now. I don't know that you could use NS10s without a sub for sure, because they start to roll off at about 80 hertz. Yeah. That's all you get.
And just purely inaudible at like 40.
Nothing there, zero. Yeah. So, so in that aspect, again, it worked better, in a time where people weren't fucking around with 40 hertz, and now it's like, driving
it's all there.
Yeah. And so it would be tough to use NS10s by themselves.
But I'd probably have them as a pair of B monitors, my B speakers.
Yeah. I think, I had that for a while as well. But if you have a pair of monitor speakers that are really more flat all the way across and you switch to the NS10s and your mix all of a sudden sounds like this, it's not really that helpful.
You're just going to remix the whole thing.
Yeah, it's such a different perspective that I think it's kind of disorienting. People still like them. I'm sure people are still getting good results out of them. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I spent a long time, I got sort of stuck with them using these NS10s and these Uri 813 large format monitors. They have 215 low frequency drivers and a horn. And that's what I used for a long time. They're great up to a point. And there's a certain point where there's just amount of distortion and there's inaccuracies in the frequency response that become limiting. And I got as far as I could with those, and then there was sort of like a ceiling where there's a level of detail that I just cannot get from these speakers.
If we could only afford like one pair of near fields, if you've got like a starting out producer, what would you say? Like these are your best bet?
Man, that's tough. Because the ones that I use are stupid expensive, and I don't want to.
No, I can guess.
Really, elitist. You have to have these. But
it's like Hans Zimmer speakers are like 30 grand, I think. So.
Yeah. So the ones that I use are made by this amazing, brilliant guy named Jürgen Strauss. I stumbled onto them when I went to Switzerland to install an Undertone audio console in a recording school in Switzerland. And, I heard the speakers and I was like, whoa. I was actually in the midst of mastering a record at the time and listened to this stuff. And I was like, this is what I want things to sound like all the time. This is really what it should be, Yeah. And he just hears things exactly the way I want to hear my music. And they're brilliant. They're passive monitors, so you have to have a power amp. There's no adjusting them. There's none of that. And he just took the time to set up the passive components properly, so everything just feels effortless and accurate and musical. I love them so much. So they're called Strauss Electroacoustic. I can't recommend them enough. They're actually more accessible in Europe than they are in the States because he's in Switzerland. So he has these small ones, the NF3s. They go down to about 50 hertz and they just sound amazing. And they're really what I always wish NS10s actually sounded like, because they have that passive speaker thing where they're not hypey, and so it's not like what you're describing with the Genelecs, where they're really fun to listen to. And I had that experience with Genelecs where you're mixing along and you're just thinking like, man, I'm fucking awesome at this. And then you go and listen to it on something else and you're like,
Yeah. Always.
What the hell happened? And like that's just what it was for me. And I know a lot of people get great stuff out of Genelecs. They work awesome. People love them. That's great. Boy, did they not work for me. I just felt like they were lying to me the whole time. You know?
Yes, that's exactly what I get, and that's why I'm looking for a good pair of more representative near fields. But so
the other thing that I would recommend when I needed just a quick, more affordable pair of speakers to throw up in a little temporary setup that I have in Vermont, I got the Atom T8Vs. It's their cheap line of speakers. It uses their same cool, whatever that ribbon tweeter is that they use. And, they just use slightly less expensive materials to build it. They're unbelievably affordable. I think a pair of them is like $700 or $800. They go down to 35 hertz or something. So there's plenty of low frequency information there. And they've been great,